Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to the stream. It's crack-a-lackin' for everyone's Tuesday. I was work, I was school, I was king back at home, that's what you did. Welcome on in. We're going to be playing a bit of Forza 6 today. I got the download all sussed out and sorted out. Got it through Game Pass, so I had to wait till today. But I'm pretty keen. I've done the tutorial races, and I've done one circuit race and one speed trap. Other than that, she's fresh as fuck. I'm actually in a call too with Raw, Gunny, and Ruff, just kicking back. I think Raw and Gunny are going to be racing or drifting today, so we should get on into it without much further ado. I'm sitting here at the garage looking at my S15, and I'll let these guys in Discord know that we're live. Well, how you doing, Chappy? How you doing, Zeke? And how's everyone else in chat as well? Make sure you guys use exclamation mark joining into that raffle before time runs out. You've got about a minute. Alrighty, I'm live now, and you guys are live to stream now. Mad. But so I actually haven't done too much at all. I'm keen to start sussing it out. I should probably do this car up, but I wanted to drive around a bit first, see how she went on stream. I'm going to be watching my stats for a second. Make sure that it all performs well. But I think so far everything's Gucci. Put this quick. No stamps.
There is so much to see in Japan, so this journal will help you track your discoveries. As you explore, you'll earn stamps. Kind of like a diary of your journey. Take a look. Yeah, I haven't nearly done much at all. I've done a couple of the weird endame or something like that, little the science, and then I've literally just done that speed trap and driven around a little bit. Got some cars in the garage for previous plays. What's this in the message center? It's at the starting guide. Alright, nothing interesting. And I did a little bit of setting, mucking around, just trying to make sure that it felt nice to drive with. Alright. Well, let's just drive around, I suppose. Now, actually, probably be better off driving to an event. Need to do this car up to do that speed trap. No, I was absolutely sucking, so it might also be worth getting a bit of practice in and trying to get these settings perfect. But I think they're all right. I just suck. It's just day trip. Oh, it's a story star. Should we go do that, I suppose? Why don't we go drive over there then? Hey, want to join my day trip in the Minamino region? Leaving from the gas station soon. Join us.
Right, so the audio mixer, I think we should be Gucci.
Turn around when it is safe.
Oh, it goes the wrong way immediately. I might do this up, or undriftify it. Might be better off racing the Celica, but we'll see how we go. I've been mucking around with the settings a bit, and it actually feels pretty good with a wheel. Bit of dead zone in the center, I suppose. Maybe that's what it is. That's not too bad. I can't decide which camera.
Turn left.
I mean, this looks nicer, but for those people watching short streams, definitely nicer to watch it like this.
400 meters. Turn left.
But yeah, not much exploring has been done. I'm really enjoying it so far. I love the cityscapes, the fact there's traffic. Raw was talking about how there's actual street races, which I'm yet to partake in, but I'm sure that's not too far away.
400 meters. Turn left.
So actually have to get good, because I've been sucking pretty hard, I'm not gonna lie. Another story mission here.
Turn left.
This is definitely a drift car too, so it's probably wonder I'm struggling. I wonder what other cars we have though that are actually applicable for this event we're trying to get to. It's a red car. Terrible racer. So who here in chat that's been playing a bit of bloody Forza 6, kicking back on it? Did you pre-order it? Did you get all the DLC? Are the cars sick? Are they worth it?
Because like I haven't actually bought it yet. I'm doing the totally acceptable, but definitely a little bit POV option. I'm just driving past Story everywhere. Yeah, maybe I will go to the circuit race first.
Turn right.
Oh, it was terrible. I thought I was trying to handbrake with that. It's actually pretty embarrassing. Oh, did I just see Slayer is saving planes? Hey, Chippy, welcome to the stream. It's Crackalackin' with you Tuesday. I was kicking back at home. What are you up to today, brother? You doing a bit of gambling? In Supernova? Surely you're fiending to get amongst this with your wheel. And look at that, 10-day or 10 streak. That's a tongue twister. We're trying to topple him. I was going to see the leaderboard for the watch streaks. I believe it's top watch streaks. Exclamation mark top watch streaks in chat. Yeah, maybe we should be trying to do the qualifiers first before we do anything else. Eating food at the moment. Yeah, I'm in Supernova just getting money from the pokies. Nice, bro. Just taking out some poor cunt's farm. Yeah, but nice, dude. You got your dailies. You're hitting the blackjack, having a good time. Yeah, right. So how long till the wheel will be sorted, you reckon? Because you said you're taking it into the shop, eh? You know the story? Yeah. I reckon just do the story. Must be nerds.
You have arrived at your destination.
Little day trip. Was it the wrong button? There you go. That's definitely the right one. Yeah, let's do it. Send. 2 minutes for 3 stars. Got to email them. Did it 2 days ago. So I hope they get a reply tomorrow.
He's already funded, bro.
Yeah, having dramas with it.
I've got a special day trip planned.
What happened,
Some
Chip
very
Dog?
special cars just
Sent
for
it
today.
too hard, cussy.
We will be heading out soon, taking in the lush
So hard,
forests,
Bill, don't wanna
glistening
work
lakes,
no more.
and the area's
Yeah,
magnificent
it's what happens when you
shrine.
tip bees all
And
over
of
it.
course, there may be a nice surprise lined up. If my
The
good friend
sting!
keep his
The
word.
sting!
So,
Oof.
let's get ready to roll out.
Yeah, well, I reckon you could have just left it at one in one mode would be fine.
Alright, boring rules time. Please stay together. I'd like you to see what I see, and I don't want to lose anyone. I planned this route meticulously. This is Shirakawa.
So we're gonna beat these guns, eh?
World Heritage Site.
So is my
Famous
flash.
for its traditional Gasho-style farmhouses.
Who's that?
With hand-thatched roofs,
Okay.
using passed down through the generations techniques.
Chippy being rude, telling you to fuck up. That made me laugh, bro.
Stepping into the past.
Oh,
As we enjoy the day.
yeah, I was saying something, but my mic was up against my headset spinner.
I selected this convoy of 4x4
Yeah, I can
vehicles.
see- you can see
Led
stuff
for
happening.
days and made to tame any road.
Yeah, no. Fucking spinner, dude. Because I got push to talk on and I got a new mic, right? Which is like, I can flick it up and down off my headset. So I just literally forgot. I thought talk to him earlier too. Yeah, I'll let you guys know you were live on stream too and talk to you and just fucking didn't even realise I didn't talk to you.
Maybe a more apt term for driving around the prefectures of Japan, but whatever you call it, this SUV has stood the test of time.
Fucking Pajero. Or was it a Montero?
This
All
this
about the more
proximity radar.
serene,
When you were
green,
like, oh, turn the radar on, I'm like,
We have one of the world's fastest cities. And with the
Yeah, they added a full proximity radar. Because I used to have that on SimHub for Seto, not for Seto 405.
From the fast pace of city life.
And it's inbuilt in this, so real easy.
Appreciate stillness. Slow down once in a while.
It's 2 minutes. I don't think I can get this done in 2 minutes, dude.
We have a very special guest with us today, Takehiro-san from Opus FM.
What was that though? It was a faulty wheel. Yeah, no, they said that to you. I actually agree. Okay, that's funny. These guys are a bit mean. A Subaru. Yeah, come on, just a little bump.
And handling it like a pro.
Oh, well, you can take this pretty hard in this car.
That's pretty sick. Smack
Driving a
bang
full
center of the
Pajero.
screen, it pops up when you're in your face and disappears.
Watch this sharp right coming up. As you turn in, off to your left, you have a stunning view of the mountain range.
Yeah, nice. Use that Subaru as a brake.
Lake surface.
It's you see the fucking Pajero? Well, I guess it's a Montero in this, but
Japan has many ancient shrines.
Gunny, are you
Be
in
sure to learn about the
a free
customs
roam?
and rules before you visit. These are places of spirituality, of peace, quiet.
yeah, you said to go do something.
Every shrine has its own history. At some, you can pick up a charm that provides protection or brings good fortune in different areas of life, such as health, success, prosperity. A good friend of mine has been renewing them every year. I have one for safety on the road.
Gonna get third.
Seems to work.
Fuck. Not even.
So last corner coming up. And
Oh!
head to the bridge where...
That's what I get.
Let me see. Yes, it's here.
I should probably restart. That's terrible. Should we get another go, chat? That was fucking horrid.
May I lay down a challenge?
Well, I guess it's a story thing.
Simple
Can't just,
race.
you can just
No
restart it,
twists
can't you?
or gotchas.
All right, I'm in. Just so you know, kind of a pro on these roads now, so try to keep up.
That's fucking pretty horrible though.
May says stick together, stay close by, and other catchphrases, but this is a race.
This is a car that actually feels good. That's definitely not the right gear though. Definitely should be using the fucking quick shifter, but the haze shifter just feels so much nicer. I'm gonna use that in every car. Not bad. This is a good car. Fuck the Pajero. Horrible. Okay, I'm way too hot there.
When are you gonna drop the hammer, Jordy? I thought you would be long gone.
I'm biding my
Somehow
time.
I brought that back.
Perfect moment to strike. In a totally chill, friends race way, of course.
Hit the gap. Oh my god. Well, this is not too bad. You can full be cheeky, right? Just off-road it.
This line is close. Winner gets a free day trip pass.
Yep. Jury's out. And fucking Montero, where the fuck that thing is. Duck balls. Not that that's a bad thing, but it was terrible.
Thank you, everyone, for being such great day trippers.
Alright, well, there's a dub. I'll take
Have a
that.
safe journey home, all, and I'll see you on another nice and chill day trip.
I'm getting 3 stars anyway, so it's 2 minutes and that. What's the leaderboard like in this? Should we try and get better? I could probably get a better time. Oh, I know you're here, Zeke. How you doing? Should we give it a retry and try and get a better time? Or do we take our 3 stars and leave? You can always come back and do this sort of stuff. Might take our time and go do that circuit race because I need to get good. I'm actually been struggling. I was fully struggling trying to do it last night. Just like I warmed up a little bit. We knew we could play at like 12, 1 a.m.
Hey, Viewbot, what's crack-a-lackin'
Okay,
with you
Dom, what do
Tuesday?
you
How
want
was
to
work?
do
How was
now?
school? Can we go home if that's what you did? You want to go to this circuit race? It's just there.
Okay, Don. I have set your route to the road race event.
Seems like you got on well with that Hellcat. Looking fast.
Oh, Hellcat was sick. Definitely like that. I don't know why I raced that, but Jerry's so hard. It's a bit mean.
You've arrived at your destination.
Oh my god. That was quick. Do the festival event. Do it solo. Is C, the max is 500, I'm pretty sure, for CA. So I can't even do this up if I want to, like, race in this tier. Because I swear, it's just so hard to race in this tier. Oh, they're on this track, it's just too drifty. Do I need to get into the qualifiers to do, what's it called? The convoy?
Nah, you should be able to just from the menus. Pretty sure.
Are you chilling? You want to convoy up?
Yeah, I can convoy up.
Yeah, let's quit the race I'm in.
Yeah, alright.
Not bad. Yeah, flick us an invite. I guess it'll be an Xbox invite, won't it? We'll have to wait and see. And we can race Raw chat. That was a fun watch. Yeah. There's a little stop of the race. That's the tier was alright.
Did you get that?
Where are you sending it?
That one came through Xbox.
We gotta open Xbox.
Press Y. Get off that.
You've heard of Faster Together. Yeah, of course you have. Well, this is the place for it. In convoys, you can create a group of drivers to compete with or just explore with.
See if you can find me through there. Manage convoy or open up your Steam thing. You should be able to see me because I'm online.
Oh,
See if you
true.
can just join me. You should be able to join me.
Steam thing's probably a better idea. What's the thing for Steam again?
I can see you online.
What's the keys for Steam again? Fuck.
Actually, there you are. I can see you online.
I'm assuming it came through my Xbox app anyway.
Did you get that one?
Chats. Where is it? There you go. Yeah. In your convoy.
Events and activities for you.
Okay.
Auto Ghost has been disabled for your convoy. So, if you want to rack up that
There you go.
training pace
I was just about to do
together,
a,
you
a
can.
mission just do that with circuit races, so I gotta do the qualifiers still. I can't start it though as just a convoy member, can I? Yeah, so I'm still doing the qualifying. Have you done that yet?
Alright, so
Keep
'cause I'm the
exploring if you
leader,
want, but the
well, I can
qualifiers
make
are
you
right
leader,
there waiting
and
for
I'll
us.
just come and do your races because that's fun. I don't care. Convoy.
Oh, you just made me leader. Thank you, bro. I suppose.
You can disable that green route that's got going on.
And then just
set a
start the
group route.
events. What's this mean you now anyway?
Start that event now.
Yeah. We can do co-op against driver tiles or you verse like other players.
I'll just be doing co-op.
Co-op,
That's what I'll
yeah.
be doing.
Do co-op for now, eh?
Up to you.
This music off. No, it won't let me for joining a session.
Dang.
Oh, yeah, shitbox.
This will be a better watch. This will be a better watch. Yeah, I have to fix my car up for this, eh? Ellis swapped the S13. You won't do it. What's my level, Westy? I've only just been playing. I played a little bit this morning. I played an hour. I only did like 2 tutorial races. A speed trap or off-road race, and I tried this circuit, but we're trying to do it again. So I'm trying to do it mostly on stream. I'm level 4. There you go. I have to LS swap it, but it won't be C class. Let's go, eh? It's only 2 laps. Build the wall. Here's the wall. Fuck. All I'm hearing is excuses. I am running a wheel. I am running a wheel. I've done a bit of setting tweaking and whatnot, Westy, but and I've got it pretty good, to be honest. But it's fucking not easy. Not gonna lie. And this is one of the best Horizons for it. But yeah, I'm using a Logitech G920. Just not running the camera, so you guys can't see me using it. Camera's actually on. If you go to the YouTube short stream, you can see me struggling a little bit. We made it around, nice. The only thing is it's like fully kitted out for drifting, isn't it? So it's a bit of a struggle. Like this car's a bit of a struggle, eh?
Yeah, bro. I need to regain another position.
That's a nice pass. We'll take that. We'll take that pass. Whoa! I'll pass. We'll get it in a second. Terrible. He cut me off hard. Come on. You got it, S15. Gotta catch up to the Supra. Oh no. I just hit that flag, didn't I? Oh, dude. Yeah, I think I lowered this dead zone a little bit raw, was saying something like that.
And slam the brakes on, bro. What? Dog bark on me and then brake check me, press.
Fucking similar issues, bro. Similar issues. Only got fucking third, bro. They're still a dub, but surely.
Have to fight some cunt off on the line, bro, just to make sure we don't lose, bro. We could have lost just then.
Yeah, fuck, that's still a dub. Ah.
We could have lost, bro. That was close.
I'm sorry, Jester, but I'll start giving you excuses, mate, alright? I'll stop giving excuses. I'll get better.
Another qualifier in the bag.
That car was.
I'll have to go swap it out. Get it done. Get new cars. Get qualifying done. Then I'll convince this cunt to do some PvP. What do you reckon once we get qualifiers done, I can convince you to some PvP?
Qualifiers,
Okay, Dom. I have set your route.
So I haven't qualified for the Horizon Festival yet.
Hey, I asked how you've been, but it looks like you've been busy. Keep it up.
Come on, this mate.
Yeah. That's fair, that's fair.
Turn right.
Oh no, I'm gonna hit that wall. Just saved it. A little bit of a wall tappy.
We usually do the festival stuff. But that's not out yet. That's usually what I do is all PvPs, but not all the story shit. I usually just do this for co-op and that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, technically that was
It's like
yeah.
400 meters.
most of them have a theme. You actually look at them on the map, or
What does the Don mean?
So if you do it in PvP,
Best at
you're not winning,
driving.
then you're gonna have to keep doing that.
Hey, doing no air tricks though. Yeah, I guess it's open class, right? So as well. Then you can pick the Don.
Well, depends. Like if you're trying to do it for the story, they're all locked behind certain classes and stuff like that.
It was nice.
Some of these races.
You ready for another race?
Yeah.
On the win
Doing Forbies this time.
You'll be adapting to challenges on and
Feed.
ground.
Everybody needs a feed, mate. Isn't that Dr. Seuss thing? Alright, co-op again. The Jimny. Oh, is this a Jimmy? It's Jimmy Fletcher. Doing the Jimmy, mate. Like this is hard.
It's gonna fuck up for you.
Oh, because I didn't get the invite to you.
Yeah. Because I was looking at the map, and then when I backed out, it didn't accept it.
Mr. Raw. Should have warned you, I guess, I suppose.
I was just looking at my map, mate. It's like anything else was blocking it, bro. It's just a glitch in the system, mate. Matrix.
How's work to do though, Mr. Adrix? Hey. Well, we'll have to restart my game, will I?
Nah.
Alright, we've got one for you guys in chat, but make sure you guys might join. Do a little 100k out because I gotta give Daniel some gambler money.
You don't have to worry about it. You just start.
So, as convoy leader, the decisions are up to you. Some
Yeah, and you're still in the convoy. I'll start it up now.
How you gonna play is your choice.
Look at this. Where's this fucking little destructible? Get this radio off. I'm gonna turn Mr. up slightly as well because I can barely hear him. I don't know if you guys can hear him that well, chat. Maybe it's because I'm listening to music, but make sure you guys use exclamation mark join to get in that raffle.
You should do the road races first.
These are the qualifying
No,
missions.
you don't have to do them. You don't have to do them all, bro. I've only done one dirt race, and no cross country ones. And so open up your map, right?
Yeah.
And have a look at your map. So see where it says.
We're doing races, are we?
Oh, you got the Horizon qualifiers, right? So if you do that street race, bro, the purple one,
Yeah.
or even the camera, bro, that'll get you over. Is better. I reckon do the street race instead of that fucking green race, bro. I don't even think I've done that green race. No, I haven't.
Well, you don't like cross country races.
Yeah, huh?
It's a cross country race. It's just one of those off road on road races.
Yeah. But just do the street race. Better.
Fair enough, but I've got no cars for that. We're gonna go do a car in that.
What do you mean you got no class for it? It's any class. So whatever class you pick is what class they'll be.
Yeah, fair.
So you got a car for that. Yeah, doing races.
But I was more like waiting until I had a nice car to do it with for the street races and that. So that's why I was doing the ones that just pushes you towards, because it gives you tutorial cars to like do those first events with.
In 400 meters, turn left.
Yeah, well, that's one of the first events.
Yeah, but do you have like what's next on?
Yeah, but I don't really follow it.
Yeah, that's all I'm doing.
Turn left.
Can't drive.
Yeah, it's just a guide. Like, you have to follow that.
Yeah, obviously. I'm not stupid.
Bro, why do you always do that to Julio, bro? Like,
Why not, bro?
you
This
notice
is
the
a street
Julio
race.
lately?
Take any
At
car
least-
you
at least
want,
the
but be
pot alone, alright?
careful. You'll be racing on public roads, so stay sharp and watch out for oncoming
I'm
traffic.
speaking to him like he's a dumb cunt, bro. He's probably the smartest cunt in this Discord.
Bro, who's speaking to who? Like,
What the fuck is happening? I'm just gonna agree.
I don't know. At least my trolls don't insult his intelligence.
bro, I was just telling the man fucking not to do a cross country race. Shut up.
I'm sorry. What?
We're doing a street race.
What card do you use?
Yeah. I told you I had no cars for street racing. Yeah, I just got the fucking starter cars, bro.
Bro, you didn't tell me what class you're using, bro. So if I come, I might have a.
Oh, I see. Thought it would tell you.
No, it doesn't.
Congratulations, Viewbot, on the 100k chippies.
It just lets you pick whatever cars you got.
Yeah, and this is a starter race, bro. Starter car, beautiful. Sweet. Let's run it.
Yeah, it's my first one of these. We should have done up my fucking tune, but anyway. We don't need tune stuff yet. You missed out, Gunny lad.
Every car that's not any of these fucking first cars like the Silvio or this whatever other car got a split shoot.
Oh, I'm gonna hit that hard.
Remember in hot.
You're saying you came in hot.
Yeah, you're way off in the suit. What? Not right now.
Ooh, bit of a frame drop there. What happened there, I wonder? Right, we're going. Let's get a dub in, eh? Evening Lego. Let's crack like with you Tuesday. How was work? How was school? What's cooking up? That's what you did, G-Star. We're just doing a bit of Forza 6, trying to get a dub.
Did you not see that car? You just ran
No,
straight
because
into
my
it.
fucking window's smashed, bro. Completely smashed, bro, and I don't have damage turned on. So, that doesn't make sense, bro. I missed the deck point. Yeah, nice. Why the fuck is my damage on, bro?
Is it my settings for difficulty?
I doubt it. Why would it give me all the settings?
Oh no. Try to save this. We're trying hard here, chat. Oh. Just fully fucking off-roading it. It's terrible driving. Oh, we're gonna hit trees here. Yeah, do something here, Gunny, mate, because fuck, I'm not gonna.
This car's not.
It's arse, bro. That one's arse. I thought I'd get in this one, and then it's fucking even worse, bro. It was alright in the off-road shit.
Oh.
I just fucking jaw race up too, didn't I, Gunny? No good, chat. Absolutely no good. That's horrid.
Fucking Julio wants to do PvP races.
See,
Yeah. To be fair, it's different racing that AI than it's PvP. The AI is sometimes a bit fucking how you going. It's not that bad though. There's a wall there. Oh, thank you for the update. I got the update fucking loud and clear. It fucking said a very big hello to me. Probably give that one another go, I reckon, eh? Fuck.
That's it. Fucking done. No point. AI smashed us, bro.
I thought this was meant to be your fucking bread and butter there, Mr. Raw, the street races.
Who said anything about it being bread and butter?
Not in C-Class, definitely not. In stock cars that the game's just given you.
Yeah, that's what I was...
You want to see me do bad, bro? Put me in a fucking... in a C-Class cross-country car, bro. Yeah. Oh, jeez.
Yeah, well, I better go start doing up cars and that if you want to do street races, but...
Bro, I've just been doing them in A-Class, bro, and this particular race as well, done it in the C-Class Sylvia.
Lad, I've played the game for 40 minutes and have just the cars I spawned in the world with, bro. I didn't get cars.
That's the exact cars that I did this race in, bro. The exact cars.
Wait, the ones we just did, I don't know which A tier. I don't have any A tiers, bro.
C-Class cars, bro. The cars that you start with, bro, are the cars that I did this race with.
Fair enough. I was sort of just wanted to gunny being like, C-Class cars are shit, I had to get another car, and you just didn't do very well in C-Class. I thought we were complaining. So what do you want me to do then? Do we do this one again or what?
Drugs. Yeah. You gotta do the qualifier race by yourself anyway, so when you get to that, you gotta leave the convoy and go do that by yourself.
Easy. Oh, I'm gonna try sending the fucking the S13. Right, so it's C-Class again.
You can use any class, bro. Any class car that you've got in your thing. So if you've got any class that's higher.
Yeah, but it's like, again, it's just the cars I've got given for playing the other Forzas. And I don't, like, I haven't driven any of them. I don't really want to drive any of them. I would rather get a different car to drive with, which is what I was sort of alluding to, which is why I was trying to use these, the good ones of the default cars I give you. Because the Jimmy's alright.
But you got 162k, bro. You could fucking go buy a shitbox car and fucking do it.
I think I said 5 minutes ago, I have to go buy a car and do it up or tune a car up, lad. But then you disagreed with me, bro. So, like, fuck, I can't win here.
Could have just told me to shut the fuck up and go do it, bro. You know, you're a grown-ass man.
Yeah, fuck. I might let you boys just play, eh? And just go do my own thing then.
Oh, is it that bad, Julio?
Yeah, it just feels awkward trying to live stream. This is just fucking tense, dude.
Oh, I thought you just pick a car and just hit the track.
Yeah. Yeah. Alright, enjoy, lads. I'm gonna take a minute and I'll be back with you guys in a moment. Just give me a minute, chat. Alrighty then, chat. I got my glass of water. I've walked away for a second. Let's get back into it. Let's go through that cross country event, eh? Just around the corner here. Get into the Jimmy and we'll go. Thank you guys for sticking through that break. Yeah. Don't bully Julio. Nah. I don't think it was that. Sometimes people just have off days. Maybe I said something the wrong way. Took something the wrong way. That just felt unnecessarily tense. Try again another day. But let's get some racing done. I want to get this cross country. And then we'll fucking do up a car for the street racing. Because my whole plan was to, I guess the point I was trying to get at with in the call was that I wanted to bloody buy like a JDM car, do it up for the street racing proper, and like get this qualifying done so the actual event's going. Save myself, holy shit. Alright, how will we do? That's the question. We'll do a festival event for the qualifiers too, maybe not risk it. Check stuff. Alright, we all Gucci. I'm just going to send it to no tune, hitting it up, get this done. Probably help if I had launch control on, think about that. Probably doing me dirty. Holy fuck. I just missed that fucking... Did miss that checkpoint, bro. Immediately. That's arse. Now he rolls onto something with the cross country. Yeah, I can't quite figure out if I'm meant to have my clutch in to launch or if I'm meant to... and like be sitting first, ready to go, or if I should be getting like foot off the clutch. I don't know. Like it doesn't really respond differently clutch to no clutch. Yeah, not bad. Drop it down again, get around the corner, fuck. Oh yeah. This is actually one of my favourite races. There's heaps of the rally stuff in Horizon 5, but I don't know. It's not a sim, it's like also like a bit like fuck. Doesn't feel the nicest. You get it to feel pretty good though. Oh, the Hoki Hoshi. I was using him for tips on like wheel settings and stuff like that. I have to admit, the settings I got off him, they were pretty mint for Horizon, on a wheel especially. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. It's fully dogged in. That in PvP, that's a dog act there. Hoping to clear the water here. Nowhere near it. Oh. And that's where wheels suck. Trying to get the thing back. Rubbing is racing. Yeah, if you're not trading paint, you're not racing. Yeah, you gotta try not to dog them, but... I was defending though, wasn't I, Viewbot? that time. Alright, let me do this, this like Horizon qualifier, whatever. Horizon event.
Getting used to a Horizon podium already, are we? Great race.
Nice win. Is this bots, but like I actually try and tune a car and go against people. Maybe race it once against AI to actually make sure it's alright. It's always brutal, the PvP in this, but then there's only one way to get better at it.
Drill. We got the call to the Horizon Invitational, so get that route set, and I'll see you there.
Oh, we're gonna be at the Jimmy for this. Hopefully they let us select the car at the start.
Jordy and I will be at the starting line, though I haven't been able to reach him. What a time to not call back.
Like, it's been pretty popular, right? It's heaps of people around. It's nice to see. Like, I've been watching how many Twitch streams there are, like, and how many viewers are on Twitch. It's like 16,000 to 20,000. On a good day, like 15 to 20 basically.
Turn right.
But the Horizons are always pretty popular, especially when they're released. I think I played 5 when it drops. I mean, I owned from 2 all the way up to 5. That's why I got those cars that were also playing that far through. I was tempted to get the sign there, but I'm just going to send it to the event.
You have arrived at your destination.
The Horizon Invitational is a rite of passage.
Am I stuck in this car?
Drivers.
Have I done myself a disservice? I hope not.
Had a look at the M2 you'll be driving, courtesy of the festival, of course. Very
There you go.
cool.
Get given an M2 beam. Can't use their indicators then. On seat one was a subscription based, right? But did they get rid of that? Absolutely cooked. And if you guys that like the Pokemon, there's a Pillow Swine in chat. I just want to catch it.
Jordy, where are you? They're closing the gate like now.
Running late. I'm sorry, I'll explain later. Just go, we can make it.
Jordy, you are... Ugh. Let's go.
Fucking story. The H shifter does you dirty.
That was too close, Jordan. We nearly missed out.
Tell me about it.
It's full starting first, even though it's a rolling start. Oh, we're kitting it all. Yeah, look, little wall tap. That saved us. Terrible racing. Fucking hell. But I'm sitting here talking about PvP. There's a roller. Could actually break though. Oh, Star Citizen, I probably would. I like the game. I've actually been looking at it a little bit. That and Stellaris, which is not fully the same, but of the same kind of ilk. This is where City Skylines a fair bit. Accidentally changed up a gear, but I'll actually take that with the paddles. Oop. Come on, let me through. To get through these cars here, halfway through, plenty of time to make up, but there's no positions this anyways this time. I hit this corner that fast. Yep. We haven't changed down to gear, to be honest. Lift but no brake. It's been holding fifth the whole time.
Oh wow, there it is! The festival!
We definitely need to get first.
Foot down!
I think you'd struggle to get first though. What time did we get? I feel like it's semi-decent. But if you could surmise this in a couple of words, Jester, why don't you try and sell me? Sell me in chat.
What a display! They made it! I wonder, what's next for these drivers?
There you go. Officially started the Horizon Festival. Looks pretty sick. All the cinematics in this, they've done well. I'm not gonna lie. I know they're pre-recorded, so that they're gonna look good anyway, but they look nice.
Hey, welcome to the festival. That was quite a drive. Are all your races that exciting? One of the perks of being the boss is that I get to reward drivers who show real potential. So
Oh, look at that. I think we know what we're doing here. Are we doing up an Evo? 100%.
So,
86.
your choice.
Evo. Or Ram. Definitely gonna go with the Evo, right?
You know what the Evo can do. All surfaces, no drama. If you want a turbo-powered beast, then we have the events to match.
Take this to the street racing. Alright, send.
An excellent choice. And remember, you'll get to drive them all anytime you want.
It's just what car to get anyway. I have a quick feel of this. We might be able to go do some upgrades to it. I am on wheel mayonnaise. Let's crack like on the Ophie Tuesday.
You're key to compete in official Horizon events. First of many on your journey to becoming a Horizon legend. But let's have a look at what's next.
I basically played for like half an hour this morning at 12 o'clock when it released. Just so I could like get the feel of the wheel, see what it felt like, get the settings done up.
You'll be in
And yeah, I feel pretty happy with it, to be honest.
And here are the events to match.
Should probably lower the dead zone though. Now,
What will it be?
Horizon Festival. Where's the street race that we lost? Dipped anyway. We have to do these ones here. It's another cross country. I don't know if I want to do that. Let's literally just go straight to a car.
Now you're part of the Horizon Festival, we'll reward you with wheel spins. All you need to do is spin the wheel and claim your prize. Give it a go.
Rally raid. Oh, that's it. That's the street racer. You can just do that S15 up as a, or S13 up as a racer though. What class is this? First, let's look at this journal, see what our collections are at. Oh, we're gonna wait till the end and then collect all the rewards. That's probably a better idea, I would say. This is B class already. Well, Matt, we'll drive back to the garage. Where is the garage? Here, right? Fill the car out. Maybe upgrade this to an A class.
It's safe to do so.
It's got a bit of power.
Turn left.
Pretty sure there's a garage here anyway you can do shit up at. There always is at the Horizon Festival, to be fair, isn't there? But nonetheless. Just so you get to test the car out. Oh, quick. Really be stopping for those signs as well. Did I get it? Yeah. Why just get a fucking stamp anyway? Something. There you go.
Looks like you've been busy exploring and discovering some new places. Here, I'll stamp your journal. These stamps are both rewards and reminders of how far you'll travel.
Nice.
As you collect more stamps, you'll pick up rumors of cars hidden in barns for you to find. Like this one. There'll be new houses for sale too.
Well, that's
Did I tell
perfect.
you about my grandparents' old home? Oh, it's quite something. Well, it used to be. Can you meet me there? I want to show you.
Yeah, do that at a later point. We'll do the barn find on the way though. Oh, the takeoff on that's hard. Oh, probably look at the road while I'm driving, but that would help. I've been really enjoying the scenery and the cityscape so far. It's been very nice. I was watching a little bit through one of my friends in Discord streaming it. Now this barn, oh fuck. Watch the road, Donny. Oh, we're looking for it. Somewhere around here. It's either going to be in the hills to the left or the right, I suppose. Although there's a dirt road just here, that looks pretty promising.
You have arrived at your destination.
That secret off-road. No way, the barn will be just next to the road though.
That's a bonus board. The festival crew have placed a whole load of them around to help festival drivers gain a little ground outside of all the events.
I just want to clear this hill out. Just not up here. Down on that side somewhere. That's my guess, just doing a little loop around the outside. And there's plenty of space through here. On the dirt road. Dello. This is a mean little rally car. There you go. Looks like we found it. Maybe? I thought we found it. Damn. The classic, just hunting through the fucking bush. Put a barn find. I feel like that was probably the right spot to be looking. Aha. I think we found it.
Cannot wait for this one. This find will be the stuff of a legend.
I wonder what it is.
Get a camera, get this on record.
I mean, it's probably not be that crazy. It's your first barn find.
I can't believe it.
Oh, it's an NSX.
NSXR GT.
Fuck yeah.
Do you know how rare this is?
Rare indeed. Only 5 were made, and this one looks like it found its way to an owner, but with no official records on how or to who.
Well, it's in great condition. Looks like whoever managed
Man,
to get
everything in
it
this car
really
looks so
loves the
immaculate,
car.
so
It has a few
this is gonna
miles
love
to
me.
its name.
I don't like the reflections in that. I was playing on like some pretty high settings last night to test it out.
NSXR.
It's a shame I can't stream
Rare indeed.
it.
The GT
I'm only streaming 720p anyway.
Extraordinarily unobtainable.
So, not full,
Bentley
like,
improved their
full specs.
competitiveness in the Super GT class.
Let's go do this up so we can go
Talk about
race.
One of a kind. I can't wait to see this on the road. Let's get going.
All right, we'll let you know when it's ready. The car's in good condition, but we'll still need to give it a good valet.
Nice to send and receive. Alright, where's this garage? Just here.
Turn around when it is safe to do so.
Easy to get back out of here.
Recalculating route.
Poor camera just shaking everywhere. I need to get a better stand for it. Actually, got a new monitor today. It's not here yet though, but here on Monday. And it's not a bloody 1440p one. It's a bit less quality, but actually I'll run it a little bit harder. It's got a better stand in it, so maybe it'll help with my table. But it's mostly my wheel that causes the realistic sounding crashing and bloody squeaking and shit.
Turn right.
Yeah, this lost that hard. Fucking hell. Can we get back to the road, please? Thank you.
In 100 meters, turn left. You have arrived
Nice.
at your destination.
Alright. Should we get this like to the top of B tier? And just go hit a straight race up in it? Or up to A tier, I think was the plan.
Welcome back, Don.
Alright, cars. My cars. Okay, select. That's not the right one. Was it upgrades and tuning? Custom upgrade. Sweet. Let's go have a look what like the swaps are. So apparently they like limited the amount of engine swaps you can do. I'm trying to make it more realistic. That's crazy. You can just drop a V8 into it. Straight 4 turbo. And that V8 would probably go hard. Try and do it within like the parameters of this car. Get a nicer body kit on it there. Lose that paint job, but I think I'll leave the paint job for now. Just leave it default. But we'll get this up to the top of B tier and try and street race it. Single turbo. Yeah, it's too much power. Change the block. And take down intake. Straight fuel system. It's just about cheesing it in there. There should be ways to do it too, like if you could like put on certain tires and stuff just to bring it down slightly. But I don't know if I'm gonna go try and cheese it that hard. I'm just gonna build a car up. Might do that at later points though. We have the race. Where is the... Is it platform and handling? Changes tires. Yeah, you can change them to wider tires. I'll show you. It used to be able to cheese shit like by doing like front tire width. So we're at 600 now. Which one is it? Is it this one? Yeah, there you go. It's like changing your rim size and shit. So you'll do that at the back just to cheese it that little bit. I'm pretty sure too roll cages because they add so much weight. If you pair it the right way, but it looks like they've sort of patched it. Yeah, the tire compounds. That's what I used to do for the drag cars because I was setting like with the guys I was in the party with earlier. We would set fucking we're trying to like set world records doing drags and stuff.
And like we can even like what? Rally build it? No. Upgrade these brakes. I reckon we can then cheese this back. We'll do exactly what I was talking about. I wasn't going to do this, I said. No, can't cheese it enough. Maybe look at tyre compounds first. There you go, drag compound. You get so much power if you did that. You try and just make a cheese build. Yeah, ups my stats. Cheese it hard, you reckon? Let's sit here and it'd be the cheese stream. You know what? Fuck it. Let's do it. So I can cheese it how we used to. So that went up with the drag tires, but that went down. That's better. The same on the back. Oh, get the benefits for launch? No, no benefits anyway. And the width make it too good. Yeah. Alright. Some of these could bring it down too, right? The Forza parts. Yeah, there you go. Because it adds extra weight. Straight hood. $587. It's because it all adds wheels, doesn't it? I don't want the wheels. Wheels are too much. Lights are also a bit much too. Well, you know what? We're doing it. Full cheese mode, right? Yeah. This is just so you can get as much power as you can into it. Let's do this one. Boom. That should do bugger all. Yeah, it does improve shift time a little bit. Drive line makes it lighter. That brings it up, so we'll leave that in. It also unlocks tuning, which you wouldn't have beforehand. Alright, transmissions. Can we bring it down with the transmissions? We're at 580. Is there any transmissions that are worse? That one keeps it the same, so we're going to do that. Alright. Should we use the rest just to get more power into it? I reckon we should. So, what? How hard can we cheese this up? We can get a bigger engine block. Can we cheese it so far to get a turbo? No. Cams. If I get bigger cams, I'll also go a bit harder. 592 on the cams. Can I get the race block? Yeah. Nah, too much on the ignition. Exhaust. Yeah. Did upgrade the pistons. Oh, we can get up to race pistons. Menace material. Was there something that'll bring it up just 600 flat? We can probably remove something that makes it shit too. I don't think anything brings it up though to 600 flat. Oh, there you go. Straight springs. Says rally springs. Gives us full tuning, but I'm just gonna do this for now. Alright. Install. That's full cheese. Straight to a straight race. Full cheese. I should probably tune it a little bit. Literally just want the top speed. 245.8, so it's the other way. Too much. Probably just want it there anyway. Everything else, I just gotta drive it and figure it out, but I feel like that'll be good enough. Just to fuck around in. And we'll go to a street race. Do one against AI and send it against PvP. Where is the closest one? Or do I have to do these suckers to unlock more? Oh no, there's purple there. Should we go back to the one that did us dirty earlier? I think so. Can't let it beat us. No, I haven't made a grave mistake in this chain. It's actually pretty quick.
400 meters. Turn left.
It's just about how it handles. By being an all-wheel drive, it actually might be...
Turn left.
Might actually be alright. Oh no.
400 meters. Turn left.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting in a street race. Being able to drive out of traffic's way pretty easily.
Turn left.
See, one of the things I reckon they patched was cheese builds, but oh, that car just spawned into us, bro. I think it's not the case.
Turn right. Turn right. In 200 meters, turn left. Turn left.
Oh, did I just go the wrong way? Oh, this is Chitogo Circuit. What the fuck? That's right, that's in the advertisement. Holy shit! He's just like there's a settle service. This is a fucking good car. A little bit of a struggle to drive, but actually not too bad. Could have done more with the engine though. Build swap, engine swap. I've got to bring down the gear ratio, I think, because it's struggling to get up to speed. Oh, I missed the exit though. Gee.
In 400 meters.
Can I change the tune of the vehicle while I'm driving it? Probably not, right? Stats, field on that. Negative, that's right. The money shift didn't help me on. I probably should have done that before we sent it over to the street race and drove like back in 10k, but that's alright. That's alright. Pink thing in the right.
In 400 meters, turn sharp left.
Really? In cars? Oh lol, fuck. Jesus Christ, thank you, bro. In the open your eyes section. Silly. Can turn on the fly, yeah. Thank you. Lower the gears or shorten the gears. Spoon maneuvers.
Turn sharp left.
So I actually get this up. Oh my god. So I can actually get this up to top range. It's only got to like 145. I guess that was top speed though. Like it just struggles to climb through gears. What have we done here, chat? It's not a speed demon like I thought it would be. Three. I guess we'll have the moment of truth and see how fast it actually drives against cars of the same class. I'll try one against AI and then I'll try one against people and watch me suffer.
You have arrived at your destination.
Right, street race, solo, and now B class Evo. It's been cheese to the brick shit house. I don't have high hopes here, chat. Alright, but might go right. Tune, nah, send. You have to find like a nice circuit track to practice on to get tunes going. Yeah, so we have our test on the takeoff and the speed of this thing. This is what I did last time too with the boys though. All lock up. We could drive. Bit of rubbing. You have to love these corners though. Actually get it around. Yeah, I think I didn't like overcook that that first left-hand corner, which I knew was coming. Still somehow overcooked it. I'll be in a better position right now. Oh, that's illegal though. The speed I was just bringing into here. This is just cut through the opposition like butter. Cheesed cars, huh? Oh, I missed that one. Missed it. There's no way. That's what I did last time too. Fuck. Right, let's give it a quick restart. That's what cheesed that first left-hander, and we're Gucci. Probably make people annoyed and online people being fair. Perfect. Much better, huh? Bit of a frame drop there? What happened there? See, drag tires up and off them. Oh no, I've cooked this, haven't I? Somehow I held it. I wish I didn't cut that corner up again, but that's all right. But we're halfway through. What do you reckon? Oh, he bumped me. No, my run. The changing down the gear ratio definitely helped. Come on, you good thing. %. Come on. No, I just haven't got this. That's still pretty good fucking effort. Second place. I'm gonna take this to PvP and see how it goes. Do it in the same class. With no fuck ups. With no fuck ups, that'd actually be a mint lap. Right. Pretty sure you can just start it again, right? Just caught my finger in the wheel or something.
What do you want to do?
Oh, up to time attacks. Won't do that just yet. This is the finish line. We can do it from online. Horizon Play.
Welcome to Horizon Play. Here you can face off
Oh, this
with
looks
other
sick.
competitors online in a variety of game modes. You can earn levels by playing any Horizon Play mode, and with levels come badges for you to show off. Want to curate your own race? Choose your race series and car class for a 3-event championship in custom racing. The driver with the most points at the end of the championship claims the crown.
It's Rivals, is it?
Rivals is all about hunting down the next fastest time, always chasing that person above you. And if you ever get to the top, watch out.
Real quick sus. What was the one we just did? Well, it's this one. Cadino. Oh, but Rivals is this time setting, isn't it? Let's not do that right now. Right, then, because I can just get back and drive over there and start it again. Oh, fast travel there. Boom. Am I tripping? Because Rivals is just the time trials, right? Back here. Oh, I was just a bloody idiot. That's what I am. I could have just done it from where I was. I forget how this works. Are the Rivals actually online versus? I swear it wasn't. Yeah, this is. It's just time trials. Oh well, try and set a good time. We weren't getting anywhere near the end of 5th really, so we could probably bring this down slightly. Let's go with that. Yeah, 240. No way. So 232 and it's going to be clean. I just play about cheese builds. Just like not driving it into the dirt the whole time. Is that a turn I cooked? Oh no, it's the other one. The Truckers MP is not too difficult at all to set up, brother. You just download Truckers MP, and then away you go. If you want to get into the logistics fucking company, that's also not too hard either, the old VTC. And for an old man like you, yeah, you just download the client, bro. Nice and easy. Yeah, essentially. The rules are a little bit like how you're going, but it's mostly just common sense. Like, don't crash into cunts, don't be a prick. Like, don't go out griefing people for no reason. But yeah, dude. Like, you'll have a good time, bro. You'll love it. But there's also a free play server that you can do. So it doesn't even really matter. So if you want to go out crashing, have no stakes, mess with people, do jumps and shit in your truck, you can. But yeah, no dude, fucking very easy. Barrier to entry, slim. To barely exist at all. Let's try and bugger this turn here, eh? No. Keep a clean time, come on. Yeah, I was trying to get Mr. Falcon onto work, but he wasn't too keen, eh? He wasn't too keen. Well, I think he was keen, but he's having the PC dramas. So maybe I shouldn't hold it against him. That's a good time. Don't cook it in the last few seconds. Beat our last time. What did we get?
And that's how you do it.
3 seconds.
It's also how your spot on the leaderboard becomes a goal for others, including me.
Not at the best time in B classes. Who's cheesed it? Should we have a quick look at the leaderboards? We'll go to another event. Extra travel time. No thanks for now. I swear it used to be a million mod thing, my tripping. But you know, and then if you want to do different like mods for Truckers MP as well, it's pretty easy to set up. You can do like pro mods and that, but you need to own all the DLC, which is probably the only thing that would like hold you back. Because yeah, that's the biggest barrier to entry is like the DLC is pretty expensive. Should we go to our next event though? I was gonna check where we placed on a leaderboard, but maybe it's a bit of effort. Have a quick look. My Rivals. No. Too gay. Street racing. So like, people are surely already chasing it, right? Can I see the leaderboard? No. This is gonna start it. Oh, there you go. Now it's letting us do it. Sun's done in a Daytona. 2:13. Only 20 seconds off. El Camino, BRZ. See, these are all cheese builds, chat. Long live the cheese build. Quick run off if you guys in chat too. Make sure you guys all use exclamation mark join and jumping in there. Do 100k. I have to get there and start just cheesing it up. But let's do another race. Do a nice straight race or something with something close by. We could probably just fast travel there, to be honest. So you don't get any discoveries though. Gone past here and here already. Boom. Yeah, and you guys got 2.5 minutes to get into that raffle for 100k chips. Make sure you guys use exclamation mark join to get on in there.
Don't let you do PvP. Alright, one more. Street race. Sorry, I just made one. Is it not gonna let me do it? What the heck, bruh? Oh, and Thomas going to the other. How you doing, Thomas, on this fine Tuesday? How was work? I was coming home. That's what you did, G-Star. Let me do it. What's going on, bro? Was like online not even work yet? I'm in a convoy. Why is it not working? Lad, doesn't even work yet? Right, well, no need. Let's use this S2, tier S2, give it a quick squiz. Don't even fucking do it, bro. Like, I'm in a convoy by myself, didn't even work. Yeah, I'm sure he's gonna raffle before time runs out. I should probably use the paddle shifts in this car. Should probably use the paddle shifts, might actually make the race better. Oh my god, that feels like. These things are fucking quick. Thank you for that little boost, thank you for the bump. Thank you, bot, just saving up all these chips. Holy shit. Oh. That was a big accident, dude. Holy shit. This is fucking tense, dude. 1.035 million, bro. Give me some of the fucking chippies, man. No, you don't actually have to. Turn into real life money then, maybe. If only, right? Oh, I'm struggling here. I'll take that bump, you bloody... You little dog! I'm not gonna get a W, you have to restart, I reckon. Jesus Christ. I don't like the supercars though. I suck at them. Yeah. Trying to dethrone Chippy with a 7-day watch streak or 7-stream watch streak. I think the old watch streaks to see a little leaderboard. Where is it? Top Pokey, top watch streaks. I think it was a top watch streaks one. Top streak. Don't see any. Oh, it's watch streaks. I'll give this a restart as well. Can you gift them? You can gift chippies, but don't gift them to me. I don't actually need them, bro. I was just having a little bit of a giggle. Yeah, kick them out, mate. So who's the number one there? We got Craver for 3 streak, Jester for 3 streak, Jazz has got 7. You got 7 as well. Oh, it's gonna be hard to dethrone. Restart this thing though. We gotta do better than that. That was terrible. Ugh. Right. Definitely needs the clutch here. Oh wow. What a break. It's just so whippy on the road here. But yeah, it's exclamation mark give chips space. I think it's the amount, and then it's the usual one to give chips to. But yeah, like I said, don't give them to me, man. I don't need them.
You can buy eggs with them, like Pokemon eggs and stuff in the Pokemon. You can buy a Pokeball so you can actually play the Pokemon games. They work for everyone. They work for Twitch, YouTube, and Kick. Oh, fuck. Oh, I hate it. The smoke. Is that what happened last time? Give me a boost. Oh no, I've lost it. Overcorrected. Oh shit. Oh, that's why I have rewind on, dude. That was fucking horrible. Started pretty strong, ended pretty fucking weak, but let's see if I can do that again. Repeat that magic. Yeah, no way. Oh! Look it down, dude. Look up. Look at the road. Oh, I've come in here too hot as well. Terrible driving by Don. When in doubt, accelerate out. Oh, that was a good line. I just jumped though. That's terrible. Oh my god. Alright. Next, another restart. Holy shit. Professional, right? That's horrid. Regretting picking these cars. I really don't like supercars. But I think it's a skill issue. Oh, it's alright, mate. Don't gift them to me, mate. Don't gift them to me. You didn't do it right, thank God, either. It's like, but yeah. I shouldn't correct you if I don't want them. But all commands are accessible through exclamation mark commands and chat, bringing you to a little page. And all commands are shared between platforms. Every single one. Fuck, let me around ya. Fuck you, pistol whip. Oh! Alright, so every time you drive through the bloody flares, you get the worst ambient occlusion I've ever seen. See, look at that shit. I'm stuck it. Oh no, that's not it. Done it again. Fuck! Terrible racer. Should get a restart counter. That's maybe I should be running rewind. I just want that credit bonus though, and the feeling of actually getting it done in one. Does help with consistency, not rewind or rewind though. I better hit that. And adjust. Does help learning the track a bit, to be fair. Give me that inside line. Oh, cooked it anyway. Oh, the Dodgers. Oh, I didn't break enough there, I don't think. Oh no! You're joking. Right, last one. We're just going to commit to position, I think. I'll take a second or a third and then just drive away. I mean, I'd probably help if we tuned it. I'm not doing that. That's effort. Overcorrect. This car's pretty brutal with it. Now we're cruising. Keep doing that every time, but go force. I know too much. It's alright. This actually might be a competitive position. I'm just going to keep this one no matter how we go. Let's try and make sure we actually drive to the road though. Sorry, mate. Come on. Come on. Oh, second. That's still good. That's still a good race. I'll take that though. I worked hard for it. Yeah, fuck. That's actually difficult, dude. That was rough as chat. I'm sorry I restarted so many times. Should fully get a restart counter going. Because I'm bad for it too. I'll sit there just restart. It's not entertaining though. Horizon qualifier time attack.
Okay, Don. I have set your route to the nearest time attack.
This is with the car they give you anyway, so let's go do this. Oh, we've got plenty of discoveries and points and collections and stuff.
Turn right.
Oh my god. Oh, Jesus Christ.
Turn right.
So, if I had one of these cars, I'd definitely be sending myself through a wall. Oh, my foot's on the clutch. That'd probably be unhelpful. How bad, mate? Getting hot chat, I'm fucking sweating balls. Hello, fallible hell. What's cracking like with the Tuesday? I was at work, I was at home, that's what you did. How was school as well? Welcome to the stream. On our way to a time trial. The Supercars, which I'm driving horribly in my wheel. I want to convoy. Can do. I think I'm about to do a Horizon mission, which is single player. I might be where I'm calling it for the night there, fallible. But there's always a next time. There's always a next time. I'm in an open convoy though right now, to be fair, so if someone found it, it'll be as easy as in.
In 100 meters, turn left.
That's a time attack circuit. Drive through the gantry to start the lap timer.
That's a time attack.
Right, now set your best lap.
And this,
Smooth and steady.
I'm not done with these yet. Should have switched cars, but anyway. Oh, those actual world events, hey? See how we're doing this. That was terrible. Around a minute.
Now, can you better it? Of course you can.
A hot lap, of course.
I know we just got our first wristband, but I'm already excited for the next.
Oh no.
Only thing standing in the
Still
way
hit that.
is that Horizon Rush event. We've got
I think I did. I think I fully still hit that, dude. That's fucking wild. That's very lucky. Bit of around here. No, I can definitely take this part a bit quicker. It was a bit shit, that last one. Wrong gears. Alright. I think a minute's the best we're gonna get there. We just, Sweet. Stunt party, look, we're disqualified. We've now made it, but I'm gonna end this time attack here. Let's go through and collect some of the things that we got through gaming in our collection, eh? To actually save this till the end. So redeem these awards. Fireworks. Credits. This chat stuff, nothing too crazy. Oh, nice. Supra. Liveries. Nice. Supra is nice. A nice win out of that. Alrighty. And do we have any wheel spins? We got one wheel spin. Let's have a quick squizzy here. And a few badges. What are the badges? Oh, you can chuck them on. Legend in the making. Objective. Use the visitor stamp. And the yellow wristband. Sick. Alrighty, chat. I'll quickly run I was going to run a raffle, but what we'll do is we'll start a raid up. If anyone is keen and has any suggestions for the raid, chuck them in the chat now. I'll make sure I'll pause any of these ads. Make sure they don't pop off. But let's me. What's it going to let me? Yeah, I can snooze it there. Perfect. Snoozed. But yeah, check any suggestions you have in chat for us now, and we'll give them a rate. But if not, enjoy the rest of your Tuesday night. So we're going live again from was it 6 p.m. on Wednesday with the Mazda MX-5 Cup for Grouse Racing on Assetto Corsa. I'll be doing a bit of an hour warm up, and we'll be doing the actual event. I'm going to do some announcements tomorrow morning and stuff. I'm pretty keen for that. But thank you guys all for tuning in. You guys have been absolute legends. Thank you guys for having me. And I'll be going live again with some more of this, probably on the weekend or something. But I could even do some after the Assetto Corsa racing event tomorrow. Wait and see. But since we've got no suggestions on the old raid, I better find some myself quickly. Have a little bit of a look-see. With the Oz, KJ Assassin, we got Grey, Flipper Flaps, Pepe the Rarest. I have no one that's probably streaming anything that's suitable for the old Forza. Unless you guys have any suggestions here in chat now. Alrighty then, well, I'll send it over to the finished screen and let you guys enjoy the rest of your Tuesday nights. Much love, stay dons, and I'll see you guys in the next stream. Peace out and enjoy.